I've come to Farmers Bridge in County Kerry to meet Boyle Sports' new racing ambassador, Gold Cup winning jockey Bryan Cooper, to talk about his hugely successful career and where it all began, right here. Bryan, you had a hugely successful career, I suppose Gold Cup being the highlight of it all, but go back to where it all started, your childhood down here in Farmers Bridge in County Kerry, and like myself, I think show jump was a big part of your childhood, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is exactly where it started. There's a photo inside of me on a little white pony on that line of stables called Snowy. That's where we started first, and then obviously went up to bigger ponies and did a lot of show jumping. The arena used to be a lot bigger. When I left it, they narrowed it down because there was no need for it to be taking up space. But yeah, I did a lot of show jumping. I was riding out the race horses from a very early age, 10 or 11 that age, even younger. So no, it was a great grounding and great being able to come out here after school in the evenings, ride the ponies and get a head start on everyone else.
Yeah, obviously a bit like myself, you were born into horses. Your father was a very successful trainer, Cheltenham Festival winning trainer as well, and it was always going to be a part of your life that horses were going to be a part of it. Was it always a jockey, or did you want to be a show jumper?
No. It was always a jockey. I loved the show jumping and had a great grounding at it, but jockey was what I always wanted to do. Any chance I got, if Dad was going to race and I was sneaking out of school, it was only 5 minutes in the road and I was out here in the yard riding out. So no, I was always a jockey, but I suppose I was very lucky to have this place to come out to, as you are as well at home. It's a great grounding to get and set me up for what was down the line.
Did you listen to your father when you were young?
No, not really, and I still don't. I had a habit of not listening to what I was told to do, but again, he was very good to me starting off and was quick to pull me aside, if I was doing things wrong. And, I think that stood for me when I went away to leave to other yards, because you're going into a yard, you know how to walk a horse, you know how to wash a horse, you've the basics before you go anywhere else.
No, exactly, and as you say, you had it here with your dad starting off in your family, and then, what was it, 14 when you went to start doing summers in Desi Hughes's?
Yeah.
Like the late great Desi Hughes, and he played a major part in your career and fledgling you as a jockey, didn't he?
Yeah, so my aunt was engaged to the head man there, Chris Delcross, and I never forget, he came down one weekend and I'd never met him, and I was jumping one of my good jumping ponies in the arena, and he says you better come up here for a weekend, and they snapped me up fairly quickly. And I was schooling around the 8 when I was 15, leading Roger Locker and Paddy Flood and all them lads, and I was very, very lucky to get him under my wing, and I was very lucky to get in there.
Yeah, no, Desi had a great association with a lot of jockeys, bringing their careers along, and yours was no exception. I think the late Desi took great pride in you as well, and nurturing the early part of your career.
Yeah, look, I've always said I wouldn't have achieved near of what I did without him. He was very strict on me and made me work like I was still working full time, like all the way up and through. I was riding all the winners in Cheltenham until I got a Jigginsound job. I was working 7 days, full mornings, and I think that was very important, bring you back down to earth. I actually called into Mrs. Hughes there only last week just to say hello, and I think we stayed there for nearly 2 hours just chatting about things. They were a family to me, because I left here so young, so they brought me in under their wing and looked after me, and it was obviously very tough when he passed away, but he's part of, he's part of a family to me.
Oh, absolutely. So obviously with Hughes looking after you and nurturing the early part of your career, you rode your first winner in 2009 for your dad, Clonmel Rostara.
Yeah.
That must have been giving you great satisfaction. You'll never forget your first winner.
No, and I had a lot of rides on the flat actually before, and I struggled to adapt.
How many winners ride in the flat?
One.
Yeah. How many rides down?
About 150.
Well, that's good going, yeah.
That didn't really work out. But
Ryan Moore was never in chat, was he?
No, my brain didn't function quick enough for
I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it was my second ride over jumps. I know you informed you your first ride over jumps is a winner, so
yeah.
But to have it for Dad and the Courtneys, Valerie and Eamon Courtney, they were big owners in this yard at the time, and they gave me an opportunity to ride her. She was a well-bred mare. She was after winning a bumper. It wasn't just a handicap hurdle, and they gave me the opportunity to ride her, and she won. It was great, and it's a day I'll never forget, because there's a lot of pressure as well, when you come on the stage as a young lad and people are expecting you to ride winners, but you took me long enough. But as I said, when I rode my first winner, things started to flow away pretty quickly over jumps then.
Talking like Norman Williamson, Josh Williamson is getting going now, and Norman says the best thing ever happened to Josh was he went 70 rides before he rode a winner. Riding lots of races and not riding winners gives you the hunger, and then you appreciate that first winner when it comes along. Too many lads nowadays get that first winner way too early and think they're jockeys straight away.
That's it.
You need to ride plenty of losers and have plenty of mishaps before you ride that first winner. Then you appreciate it more and realise what you've got to work for.
Yeah.
But it was after that first winner that everything just went sky high for you.
It just took off, I think. But as you said, having them rising the flat without riding a winner, then you appreciate your first, and then you want more and more and more. And thankfully, I kind of just fell into the right opportunities in Desi's.
It felt like I was well enough established at the time when you were getting going in 2009 and 10. And all of a sudden, oh look, Brian rode his first winner, and Brian rode another winner, isn't that great? Next thing you were getting no rides.
No, look, it was great, and I suppose I probably rubbed people up a bit the wrong way as well in the weighing room, robbing rides. But as we'll go into it later in the weighing room, you learn to be very grounded when respecting the older lads. That
took you a while, though, didn't it?
No, it didn't. I was brought back down to earth fairly quickly, plenty. Oh, yeah. So plenty bollikins off Ruby, yourself, Barry, Paul. So no, you learn from that. But no, I was just very lucky to won the fortune once to see it take off so quickly.
But you were lucky that generation you walked into the rail, you said the likes of Barry, Ruby, Paul. You were never going to get in your high horse too much with them lads around.
Ever, I was very lucky to ride with a special group of riders, that we'll never see again. And that's probably what made me so competitive and made me want to be as good, because you're looking at them trying to be as good as all of you.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, it makes you improve every day.
So Brian, your first winner in 2009 on Ross Dara, a lot of success followed after that under the tutelage of Desi as well, and a lot of support from other trainers. But 2013 really was what promoted you onto the big stage. Cheltenham, beneficent for Tony Martin in the juicing, and then O'Connor and Ted Veal in the county hurdle too for Tony. O'Connor obviously very special for Desi.
Yeah, that was a week I'll never forget, and I was going into it with actually some good rides that year anyway. Desi had a couple of fancied ones. Laureen Legend was second in the RSA, just got chinned by Lord Windermere. Lord Windermere had a habit of chinning horses in Cheltenham, but then we went into the Thursday beneficent. Sure, he wasn't really fancied. He was 25 to 1, 50 to 1. Tony fancied him though.
Yeah, that'd be enough for most people.
And I didn't do what I was told. I was meant to drop him in last. He ran away at me down to start, and then no one down the start wanted to make the running. So I said, I'll book away out in front here, and never headed really. O'Connor then onto the Friday. That was just, look, I've spoke about it a lot. It means a lot to me, but I don't think I've ever gotten a feeling off a horse as I did that day in Cheltenham.
So following on from that success in 2013 with Beneficent, O'Connor and Ted Veal, quickly you were getting high profile rides. Gigginstown jumped on the bandwagon. You were riding more or less as number 2 to Davy Russell, and having a lot of success on the second strings of Gigginstown's. Then obviously in New Year's Eve, Davy went for that famous cup of tea with Michael O'Leary.
Why I never started drinking tea, I drink coffee. Was thinking ahead straight away.
And straight away in 2014 you were announced as the new retained rider by Gigginstown, which led to that year's Cheltenham Festival. You had a massive book of rides in 2014. I think you said you'd ride nearly every race, every good race anyway.
Yeah, I think I did nearly every race, and I remember when I got the job, obviously I knew I was getting it maybe before it was announced. Desi had told me that the day Davy Russell got let go, I was asked to come in to Desi straight away. Richard was over as well. He said, come over to us straight away. And they told me I was getting it, and they just told me what to ask for contracts. Richard talked to me through money because he'd obviously had high contracts on the flat. Yeah. He said, ask for this and this. I went to Michael and I said, I want this and this, and he said no. But no, that was, but when I got the job, I was lucky. It never felt like it just flew straight out, started flowing. I was riding good horse and they were winning. I just kind of took off from where I was at Christmas. I had a great Christmas that year and led into Cheltenham with some, as you said, a full book of rides, literally riding in every race, and some great chances. And I suppose we'll speak about the fall, but there was a lot of pressure going in that year. First year riding for the biggest owners in Ireland as such, Ireland and UK, and having that amount of rides.
The Gold Cup in 2016. I think that was the first year we started sharing a house in Cheltenham. You won the Gold Cup in 2016. I wanted out of that house in 2017, and then your man didn't rent the house to us anymore, and everything went downhill from then on. So I don't know, but
we all struggled to write a winner there for a long time.
2016, like, he was a hell of a good horse, Don Cossack, wasn't he? The way he travelled through that Gold Cup.
On a nicer surface, he had some engine. Struggled a little bit on real heavy ground. It was more class that got him through it. But when he was kind of turn into the spring type of year, he was just a different horse. When the sun came out, it was like when the sun got in his back. You'd see it with a lot of horses.
Yeah.
But God, he had some engine. There was never a doubt in that race at all. From the very minute we jumped off till I went by the line, that like I was ever a worry of not winning. Like kind of, you go out with plan A, plan B, but just stuck to plan A. Went around, jumped well. Maybe made a mistake at the fourth last, but other than that, like they say, Q Card was going very well. But all he would have done was give me a lead further up the hill. I thought, I ended up being in front too soon. And it was an awful pity he didn't go back a second year, because I don't think you would have had a Gold Cup if I came back to second
would
year.
You stop, would you? You said he had to have good ground, good horses winning any ground. Size and John won on heavy and gold. It didn't matter what it was. He was just a machine.
Yeah, but I would have loved to see him go back in a second year, because I do think he was getting better with age. Like he was at his very good that year, and I think if we got him back in one piece, he would have took a lot of beating the next year. But it would have been nice to be fighting out to finish in a Gold Cup together. But unfortunately, he never came back after that. He got injured,
and that's the rigours of a Gold Cup. A lot of horses don't come back. Don Cossack didn't come back. Size and John won the next year. He never got back to another Gold Cup.
Yeah.
That's how tough a Gold Cup is to win. To keep a horse right to win one is an achievement in itself. Never mind 2 or 3. And this year, Galloping the Champ has gone for 3. He's been an unbelievable horse, soundness wise and all that. So, in your first few years in Cheltenham, you experienced the highs of Aaron O'Connor and those 3 winners in 2013 to the following year, 2014, and that horrific break off Clerkham in the Fred Winter.
Yeah, obviously got a horrific fall off Clerkham in the Fred Winter. It was nearly going too well, is why he fell. He clipped the top bar, and to be honest, I don't remember a whole lot of the fall after that, which I'm lucky. One of the first things I remember is being back in the ambulance room and Mikey Fogarty peeping his head in the ambulance, and I think he was more of a shock that I broke my leg than I was. He said, "Geez, lad, you broke your leg again," he says, and they had to drag him out to get him out of there. Look, it was rough. It was a tough time. Funny, the pain was nowhere near as bad as when I broke my femur in Down Royal. That was worse, but look, you get up, you move on. I was lucky, probably happened there, but I was very lucky I got into Santry as well at the time with Enda King.
Yeah, I second that as well. Yeah.
I don't think I would have got back near as quick or got back at all if I was there, because I wouldn't have done the proper rehab.
You wouldn't have got back in as good a condition as you did.
Not a hope.
But the work they did there was unbelievable.
No
I benefited from that, and to second that, in the latter stages of my career, without the help of Enda, I'd have retired 2 or 3 years earlier. I wouldn't have been able to keep going.
Yeah, and I think, Ruby said something similar about himself. I was young, I wouldn't have known what to do, but I remember a few days I was going in there, Ruby was there, and Paul O'Connell was actually there as well. He tore the hamstring off his bone. Remember the Rugby World Cup that year? And I was going in training with these athletes every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was very lucky to have that, and we were one of the first few who started going there, but it made a massive difference to my career, because there's no way I would have got back in as good a condition, and I needed to be, because I was coming straight back into the biggest job in racing, so I had to be in tip-top shape.
Bet you Paul O'Connell didn't tell his friends he was training with you.
You wouldn't know. he thought we were tougher actually than what they were. I asked him one day, and he says funny, they thought jockeys were tougher because they're built to take the hits, whereas we're not. But now you wouldn't be as tough of us.
Every man to their own. Every man to their own. I'm not playing rugby.
But it was great. It was great insight, seeing the different methods. And I got very much into fitness after that, and I was going to the gym an awful lot more, whereas I wasn't. I've been doing that beforehand, and I think it definitely stood to me in my latter part. I know I retired early, but I got stronger because of that, because it was a nice routine to be in, and something that I enjoyed doing. Obviously,
Brian, after having such an horrific injury in Cheltenham and a leg break as bad as it was, you were in a good position coming back to have top class horses to ride. You came back in October of 2014, and that's the kind of time Gordon Elliott kicks into gear with all his National Hunt string. You were fit from all the rehab you've been doing in Santry and working on your own fitness, to hit the ground running was going to be important after having such a bad injury. Confidence, rebuilding confidence straight away. But you did hit the ground running when you came back. You came back at the perfect time.
Yeah, it took off. And rolled kind of into Christmas. I think I rode like 5 winners, 6 winners, 4 Grade 1 winners at Christmas in Leopardstown that year, and just kept flowing. As I said, the horses, that was their peak time, like, so I couldn't have come back at a better time, and rolled on into Cheltenham then 2015. I think I won on Don Poley, he won the RSA. Again, like, I had a lot of rides, but it's like a lot of trainers, they had a lot of horses and races, but they weren't all, some of these could have been 25-1, but Michael just liked running as many as he could over there. I think I definitely won, if not 2 winners that year, and then we rolled on into one of the biggest years of 2016 when I won the Gold Cup in Doncossack.
Whose idea was to run him in the Ryanair the year before?
Gordon's.
It wasn't
Gordon's and Michael. No, I wanted him to run the Gold Cup. I didn't think he'd the pace for the Ryanair. I just thought he lacked the gear, and he got found out. Like, I know I probably made 1 or 2 wrong decisions in the race, but it resulted, I was flat out the whole way. He made a mistake at the top of the hill because he couldn't go any quicker, and he got shuffled back, and he came out and he absolutely bolted up an Aintree over first run over 3 miles, then that with McCoy, and I don't think he ever ran over 2.5 after that in Ryanair.
2016 and a Gold Cup, the rootlessness that Gigginstown was, didn't last much longer, did it?
No, got the P45 in. I came back the following year, two winners in Cheltenham the next year. Apples Jade and Road to Respect won the handicap chase. Then went to Punchestown. I had 3 Grade 1 winners from that year in Punchestown, 4 winners overall, but I just knew they were getting very big, and I was probably not handling things the way I should have been, but I kind of knew myself it was running on its last legs, and I got let go in Galway. Got asked up for a cup of coffee in
why did you feel that it was coming?
There was rumours, there's always rumours going around, but I just felt it was very hard. Like, they had horses with a lot of trainers, and every trainer had their own kind of jockey at that stage.
Yeah.
Gordon had Davy and Jack, and Noel Mead had Sean Flanagan, Henry had Rachel, and I knew if I was still with Desi would only want his stable jockey, and it's hard to keep all those trainers right. And like, when I got let go, they never retained anyone after me. They just let the trainers use their own jockeys. Yeah. So, and I think the day of retaining a jockey to an owner was probably starting to go a bit, and that was maybe one of the reasons. And maybe I wasn't delivering the way, they want their summer horses were maybe as important as their winter horses, and probably wasn't giving the summer horses as good a ride as I should have been. I was probably I had a lot of injuries that winter of 2017, and I wanted to get through the summer without being put under too much pressure and get to October, but that didn't sit well with them. They liked their horses being ridden very positively, out in front, fit, let them go during the summer, and I just wasn't a fan of doing that, and that's probably what it led to as well. But there was no falling out. I still rode for them, and I was still riding Henry's ones a lot of the time before, up until November, when I went over to ride Alan Potts horses in the UK, which probably wasn't the right thing to do at the time, because I closed all doors here then in Ireland for myself, because I wasn't in riding out in the yards in Ireland, and that's when you had to be doing that to get rides, and I had no stable then. And then I came back in February when Alan passed away.
Colin sacked you then, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't think I was never employed by Colin, so I was never sacked. He never wanted me there anyway.
No.
It messed things up for me this side of in Ireland, because you're here start of January, like, everyone is in every yard, and then I'm coming knocking on the door asking Gordon, Henry, Noel, can I have a few rides here? But they're like back in the queue. The game had changed a lot, and I think it didn't matter how many rides, no matter you had 150 winners in Cheltenham, if they had their stable jockeys in there at that stage, the day of the good rider getting the good spares was kind of gone. I felt everyone was using their own type of rider, which was fair. They were in doing the hard work, the graft, they were getting the opportunities, and I had to go back from on my hands and knees and start working, and I probably didn't do it for long enough at the start.
You didn't have to do a day's work in your life when you were starting out.
That's why you're going grey now, or handball. But no, it was that's kind of what happened. But maybe it was the kick up the rear end that I needed to go and prove people I wanted to work again.
So you talk about having to put up your boots and work hard and ring around trainers. And a couple of trainers through your lifeline, you mentioned Noel Mead. I think Noel was a big supporter of yours and helped your comeback. But Paul Nolan and James especially, I think they sort of booked you as our stable jockey, and at the time had some nice horses coming through, like the latest exhibition, Mrs. Milner, who you ended up riding the Cheltenham Festival winner on, your last Cheltenham Festival winner. They gave you a big leg up to help you kickstart the career again.
Yeah, it was probably one of the biggest helps I've ever got, because my confidence was very low as well, because I like with other trainers telling me how to ride this and that way, and Paul rang me and James, they said, sure, come on, we've a couple of nice horses here, come down a day or two a week and ride out, and you can do your rides there if you want them, and we're not going to tie you down. You know, they never tied me down to instructions. They were great rides, and it just flew away. I rode some great winners, a couple of, you know, Dublin Racing Festival winners. They were really starting to rebuild their you know, they had a lean spell for it as well, and it just worked. We got on great, more so we were friends as well as a business. Yeah. And it worked well. Latest exhibition gave me a lifeline. He was my first Grade 1 in just under 2 years, maybe just probably was 2 seasons I'd gone without a Grade 1 winner. He won the Nathaniel and Lacey in Leopardstown, went on to Cheltenham, was just chinned by Monkfish in the Albert Bartlett, and then we came across Miss Milner. She won the Pertemps, which was their first winner since, I think, Noble Prince in the juicing as well. So it was a lean spell for them, and it was great, you know, to repay someone with a Cheltenham winner after being one of the, probably without them, I'm not so sure would I've kept going. They gave me a lifeline, and you know, I got on a nicer type of horse again, and that was one of the most important parts of my career, to give me another extra couple of years of riding nice horses, and will always be very grateful, and I'm delighted to see them going so well now.
Cheltenham 2023, we were sharing a house again together with Barry O'Neill and Rob Janes, and I remember walking into the racecourse with you on the Tuesday. You had no ride on the Tuesday, and myself and yourself and David Mullins.
Barry O'Neill was there. We
were all walking up together, yeah. And I remember you turned around and said to me, I never felt so relaxed walking into Cheltenham. And it was the first time it dawned on me, that's not right. Usually when you're walking into Cheltenham and you've no ride, you're like gutted you don't have something to ride, but you were very happy about it. And the next morning I got up out of bed to go down to ride out. I was working for Henry at the time. Was still on, thankfully. And you
call it work now. Yeah, you answer the phone.
You said you weren't riding out. Your ribs were sore. You'd had a fall in Leopardstown, I think, that weekend or the weekend before, and you said you weren't riding out. Your ribs were too sore. And I said, Jesus, Brian, you have to ride out. You have to go down and ride out to Cheltenham, like. And he said, no, I'm not. I'm going back to bed. And I got down to the racecourse, and I met Noel Mead. He was going livid. He was looking for you. And I says, he's at home. He says his ribs are very sore. If he can't ride out, he's not riding the race. I says, he'll be fine later on. I says, he just said his ribs are very sore. And I remember walking back to the house that day, and I was going to give you a right bollock, and I was going to get tore into, because loads of people were giving out. Yeah. And when I walked into the house, and I was like, I think it was Barry I met first, or Barry's wife Bridget, and they said, poor Brian's in an awful way. And I went up to the room, and you just said to me, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I remember you walking in the door.
Yeah. I was ready to never hurt you. But you said, I just can't do it anymore. And I said, what do you mean you can't do it anymore? And he said, I don't want to ride. I'm afraid. I'm done. I don't want to ride. And I says, well, fair enough. So we had a chat for a while, and I've said to you that it's your decision. I'd actually met Jennifer Pugh on the way back. She'd been to see you as well. And I think we all agreed we'd say nothing to anyone. It was your call to make. But I've walked out of the room. Your dad came into the house. Yeah. He was given out as well. Livid. He was actually more upset than you were. You were like, I see when you said it to me, I could see the relief in your face that you'd actually got it out.
I just had to say it, like, and it was something I was bottling for so long.
But I'd say, when I look back on it now, probably I think it's the most, and the way you've spoken about it since, that you just were afraid. You didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was the most courageous thing I think you've ever done in your whole career, riding down over Grand National fences a whole lot. For someone to come out and say, that's it, I can't do this anymore. It would took far more courage to do that than to get up on the horse that day and go out and ride
and do it. I remember going into the races, as you said, that day with G, and I was never as happy I wasn't riding. I remember looking at my watch, like thinking, oh God, this day is ending quickly now. I was just enjoying being there, but not actually competing. And I knew then, I said, I'll not be back riding here this year or next year, that's for clear and certain. And I got in a fall that previous week in Leopardstown, and I cracked a couple of ribs, and I woke up that morning and I was like, I just can't go out and ride here. I had 4 rides that day, 2 for Willie Mullins, 1 for Joseph and 1 for Noel. Like, trainers you dream of riding for in Cheltenham, not alone in one of them. Like, I'd ride through all 3 of them. And I just said, I cannot do it. I couldn't physically pull myself up and go, and I dealt with it probably a bit stupidly. I said my ribs were sore, I'd bide myself a couple of hours, you know what I mean? And I just says, I can't do this anymore. My sister was staying in the house that evening, she was there. She came in, tore through me. David Mullins was there, he came into the room and says, get out with the bed, will you be grand, drive on, you know. But I knew myself, I said, no, there's no going back from this. And you come in, and I broke down, I got quite upset, but it was upset and it was a relief off my shoulders, just being able to admit it and being able to be upfront with people. I was very worried about letting people down, Noel Meade, Willie, but the support I got from them afterwards, I think because I didn't come up with a silly story, like, it was the truth, and they could tell it was the truth, and probably knew it as well, because there was obviously people, I showed to people that I probably wasn't as committed as I used to be. So that's where it was, and I booked a flight and got out of there on the Thursday morning. I stayed in the house that Wednesday, watched the race, and I was never as happy to be watching it and not competing. So and I came home, and I took a couple of days before I came out and announced it, and I done the big interview, and I was very honest and said exactly how I felt, and I just think that was the best thing for me to do, and I think people probably have respected me more for that now. But you know, it's not even what people think. It's more so myself, that I can walk away and just say, look, I had a great career. That's the way I went out. Unfortunately, it wasn't the way you'd like to go out, but you're still going out on your own terms, and that's very important.
So Brian, your new career, should we say, has started extremely well, I'd say, in the space of less than 2 years. You've established yourself as a bloodstock agent, and already sourced some very decent horses, Bottler's Secret, Hello Neighbour, who has a big chance in this year's Triumph Hurdle, Amen Kate, who's won a bumper already impressively, has an entry in the Champion Bumper. I think you've sourced 4 or 5 entries this year's festival.
Yeah. It was something I always had an interest in doing. Even when I was riding, I was always buying, selling, flicking away a few horses. So I met a guy in Portugal just before.
On one of your holidays?
On one of my holidays, jockey holidays, I kind of stuff. It was one I was entitled to take, and he said he'd love to. Asked me to give him a hand buying horses. So I bought a horse at the Derby sale for him, which he had to run, and then I bought the next horse was I bought Bottler's Secret for him privately after he won the flat. He won 2 Grade 2s last year. And then Hello Neighbour came around. Obviously, he was with Gavin. Gavin had him belong to the O'Callaghan's, and he won on the flat. And then obviously Tony O'Callaghan and Roger, they're traders. They wanted to sell. And I think Gavin really wanted to keep him in the yard, and he asked me would I put him to Patrick Shannon. And at the start, he said no. We eventually talked him around, and he agreed to buy him. I think it was very important for him to be staying in Gavin's yard. Gavin knew how good he was, and I think he was struggling to get someone for the money so we convinced him, and that's great. It's worked out.
It's worked out very well. He's already a Grade 1 winner.
Yeah, so for what he paid, it's definitely, he was worth the money, and he's going to Cheltenham with a very live chance. So it's great. Obviously, he bought Amy and Kate at the Derby sale as well. She came with a great pedigree. She bolted up first time out in the stall. So I've bought plenty of winners. A few smaller ones there as well that are winning, but I'm trying. I suppose I like to go around and sit in the horses as well, which I find is a big advantage. I've rode a couple of pointers this year that I have the option to buy. And I think it's a different side of things compared to what other people don't get to do. And again, I have my own horses here. I have a couple of breezers, 2 or 3 pointers there as well that I'm tricking away with. Anything that I know that would pay some of the bills now, because I think I wasn't long seen that when you're not riding race horses, the bank balances will be long going still.
That's for sure.
You have to work, but I think it's a good thing that I realised that, and it's nice being able to come home here. I don't have a yard in Kildare where I have my own house in Kildare, but there's no land with it, so it's nice being able to keep some of the horses here, and I'm involved in a couple of the horses and with people as well. So really enjoying it, and always I get a thrill of seeing these good horses. I get a thrill at the sales, get a thrill if you buy one. If someone gives you an order and you're able to buy it for them, so it's a thrill I like, and you have to get used to it.
Best of luck with it for the future. And I think one of the best bits of advice I was ever given was by Harry Rogers to ride for as long as possible, because when you stop riding, you have to start working. And how right he was. Unfortunately for you, you couldn't ride for as long as possible.
Yeah.
But you made a great start to your new career, and you're not making a bad effort at the working.
No, I still realised that you have to work, and I think it's good I realised that. I didn't sit around and mope, and a lot of people told me that you're not actually retired, you're just changing careers, and that's what it was. Like still people ask me, well, how's retirement going? And I'm like, well, I'm not retired, I just changed my career path, and that's what I'm doing now. So I'm really enjoying it, and I said I'm only 32, so I'm plenty of years of hard work ahead of me, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this year you're going to walk into Cheltenham with great excitement, and hopefully looking forward to a horse passing the post that you've selected for an owner.
Yeah, and hopefully there's plenty more to come.
Best of luck.
Thanks. Let's go.